Right. Joker, Folie, Deux.
Yes, the
This
controversial
might be,
film of the
this
year.
might be the most controversial film of the year. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a chat about the controversy around it,
Uh-huh.
and then we're going to get into my review. So, Twitter was very unhappy with this film straight away, to the point where I actually got a little bit worried. I was like,
Okay.
oh shit, have they actually fucked it? Because we knew they were trying something risky.
Yeah, we did.
And we were like, okay with that risk. We accept you're going to miss the mark. And so much of Twitter being unhappy, I was like, oh shit, maybe they missed the mark. But this is once again proof to me as to why you should always go and watch something yourself and make your own opinion. It got a cinema score of D,
Right.
making it the first ever comic book movie to get a score that low.
Wow.
Which means, according to Cinema Score, yes, according to them, it is worse than Morbius, Madam Web, F4, For the Dark World, Batman vs Superman, The Flash.
I mean, just those first two. How is it worse than them?
Yes, exactly. So I went in very kind of closed-minded in a negative way. I was trying to keep an open mind, but I was a little bit like, oh, this is going to be shit. This is going to be difficult. The film's gorgeous, man. Now, like, you know how much I hate sounding pretentious.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold back, and I'm just going to use the words as they come. It might end up sounding pretentious as fuck, but I'm trying to just give an honest experience of the film.
Okay.
I am aware that I'm a very knee-jerk reaction person. I didn't vocalize my feelings about this film for 24 hours after leaving the cinema because I knew I had to sit with it for a little while.
That's fair.
It is, in the purest form, art. It
Which
makes
doesn't
you question
surprise
things.
me.
Yeah, it asks you as a viewer questions. It asks you as a viewer what you're comfortable with, what you're uncomfortable with. It makes you think. And that's why people don't like it. And I don't want this to come across as a, if you didn't like it, you're too dumb to get it, which is what some people are doing, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
I do think there is legitimate criticism in, you just wanted to go see something where you didn't have to think, and you are angry that it asked you to think.
I think from what I've read, because obviously I haven't seen it, so from my viewing from the outside of social media and people's responses, I would say I think a lot of the people that are just like, worst film ever, went going expecting it to become more of a full-on comic book Joker film, thinking that that's where the story was gonna, like, we're gonna get like a Joker like Heath Ledger sort of direction, but have been given a film that was not in the direction they thought was going to go. So then they're like, oh, this hasn't become what I thought it was. Oh, this is rubbish. Because now I have to think about it.
I completely agree. So, acting. Lady Gaga, Joaquin Phoenix, and Brendan Gleeson are all phenomenal. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. I genuinely believe if this wasn't a comic book IP, all three of them would genuinely be in with a very good chance at an Oscar. I genuinely believe that.
Okay.
Some of the best acting I've witnessed. As we said in the lead up to this film about if Lady Gaga pulls this off, she might be like the best dual talent in the world.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, she is. I don't know of another soul on this planet that can sing as a singer as well as her and act as well as she acted in this film. I was so impressed. The cinematography and the art design were gorgeous.
That doesn't surprise me for this, considering what we knew.
So beautiful. The drabness of Arkham and Gotham is there because it should be drab, but then they have these beautifully put in spots of color to give it a full room. The way they use light and warmth and color to give you something is right there, and that's what I mean when I say this is in its purest form art. It's
I get you.
literally what I've been screaming for, in the sense of comic book films need to actually respect themselves a little bit more and go, yeah, we're serious art as well. Now, it's fine if you don't like the film
Mm-hmm.
because it is art. And when it comes down to art, it actually stops being about whether it's good or bad. It's whether you enjoyed it, whether you see value in it. So
Yeah.
people not liking it, I'm actually completely fine with, because it's not like a lot of the MCU films where it's kind of an objective thing because of the way they're made.
Yeah, I get
If
what
that
you mean.
makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the film is asking questions of you, you
Yeah.
can go, I don't like that. I don't think it's good.
And going, like, us knowing that it was going to be pushing the boundary and test, like, trying, it's going to be, this isn't the best, like, this is not to downgrade the film, because obviously, but, like, it was going for that artsy fartsy,
Yes.
like, approach to a film, which lots of people don't like those films. And that's fine, because you just want to go to a film and be entertained in the normal sense.
Mm-hmm. The story was more compelling than the first film in every way, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
So the main concept of the story is Arthur's in prison,
Mm-hmm.
awaiting his actual trial.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the whole film centers around his trial.
Yeah, which is the courtroom stuff.
The entire ethos of the film is everyone is abusing Arthur.
Right.
And that's why people don't like it, because they realize they are complicit. And that is actually the point you're trying to make.
Got you.
So you have the legal system, which is trying to get the death penalty for Arthur,
Uh-huh.
when Arthur is clearly a mentally unwell individual.
Yep.
You've got the media, who wants to keep spinning this Joker narrative because it's good for ratings. So they're abusing Arthur for their own gain.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Jokerites, or whatever you want to call them, who believe he's the Joker, who just want someone they can project their own ideas onto.
Yeah.
And then you've got Harley Quinzel, or Lee as she goes by in the film, who has delusions of grandeur.
Right.
So the title, A Folie, we're made to believe it's Harley buying into Arthur's fantasy. It's actually not. It's Arthur buying into her fantasy.
Right. Okay.
So they meet with her in the mental health ward of the prison.
Uh-huh.
And she's in a singing class.
Right.
Brendan Gleeson, who's the prison officer, gets him into the singing class.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they meet, and that's how they start talking. And she lies to him constantly. We don't know it till much later, but she lies, saying she's been put there because she burnt her family's house down and her mother had her committed.
Right.
We later find out that isn't true.
Okay.
She claims that she's from the same neighborhood as Arthur. That's not true. She's from the rich side of Gotham.
Right.
She committed herself.
Right.
She didn't set a fire. She
So,
is trying to be what she thinks Arthur wants.
got you.
And as a result, Arthur buys into that. Arthur is following his lawyer's advice until Lee gets in his ear, makes him feel loved, which is all Arthur's ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then he becomes the Joker again.
Got you.
And then he starts defending himself in court.
Right.
And it's a beautiful story about how everyone the prison guards. Throughout the entire film, they go, "You got a joke for us, Arthur?" And it becomes apparent that since he got there, they've been asking him for jokes, and if he makes them laugh and tells them a joke, they'll give him a cigarette.
Right.
So they're abusing their power over him like that. And at one point, after coming back from one of the singing classes, Arthur says he has a joke for him. So he gives him the joke. And Brendan Gleeson's happy because they've got their joke monkey back.
Yeah.
So he gives him a cigarette. And Arthur goes, "Cheers, pal," and slaps him on the back. And it's supposed to be that moment of, look, they're humans. Ruined instantly. Brendan Gleeson twats him upside the head and sends him flying. Because it's all abusive. Yeah. It's all abusive. And then the power dynamic shifts as he becomes more of this Joker persona again. The guards will start to turn on him. Because he's got too big for his boots again. He's not their little clown anymore. He's buying into his own hype.
Yeah.
To the point where he gets back from prison one day, from court one day, and they beat the shit out of him. In the showers.
Which, at the end of the day, this is Gotham. So...
Yeah. Now, this is where a lot of controversy online about the stories come to pass.
Okay.
And it's also one of the main issues I have with the talking around it at the minute. There are claims online right now that Arthur gets raped, and that's when he flips back and undoes his Joker persona.
Right.
Which is supposed to be that shower scene.
Right.
There's no evidence that that's what's happened. They drag him into the shower. They start stripping him out of his Joker suit, which he wore in court that day. And then we don't see anything else.
Right.
So there is an implication that something more serious could have gone on.
Yeah.
It's not explicitly said. No. So I think it's unfair for these people who are trying to... And it is only people who are calling to hate the film, who are saying he gets raped and then he stops being the Joker. What did the director mean by this? And it not being explicit doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
No.
But I also think it's very fair to say that there is ways you can read a scene. And I shit you not, when I saw that online, having just seen the film, I sat there for a solid 5 minutes trying to work out where this imaginary scene happened. And I had to go into the comments to see people discussing it to work out where they thought it was. Now, that could be me misreading it. As I said, this film is absolute art, so it is all about viewer intention. But I can tell you, at watching it, I never read that scene that way.
Fair.
So, the way I read that scene was he goes in there, he gets abused, he feels like shit, he's stripped of his identity as the Joker by them ripping his clothes off. They take him down to solitary confinement, where there are a few other people who, during his Joker persona, he'd riled up and kind of started a mini riot.
Right.
And then they start singing the song that got them put there again.
Right.
And Brendan Gleeson's character drags one of them out and starts choking him out. And you don't see this, you only hear it. And you hear the other guard saying to Brendan Gleeson's character, Cap, calm down, you're going to fucking kill him. Calm down. And you hear this horrible gargling and scratching and fighting noise the entire time. While Brendan Gleeson's character just telling him to shut up, because he's trying to sing the song still.
Yeah.
And then it all goes silent and a thud hits the floor. So it's implied that he kills him.
Yeah.
And then the next day in court, you have the closing arguments. And he sits there and he goes, I'm not the Joker.
Right.
At which point, Harley gets up and leaves the court. And all the other Jokerites who are in the court get up and leave the court. They all abandon him the second he's not what they want him to be.
Yeah.
Then, and this is where it gets a little bit crazy, but it does, obviously I'm talking about it in the third person almost, so you're not getting the full flow of the film. But at that point, a bomb goes off at the side of the courtroom. And two people in Joker masks come in, they grab him and they put him in the back of a car.
Oh, shit.
And this is because the day before, when he's talking about how he's been wronged by the world, he says he just wants to blow it all up. A flippant phrase. How many times have I said I want to blow it all up? He literally says it like I do, in like a really flippant phrase. If we need to rebuild the system.
Yeah.
And these fuckers blow up the side of the courthouse to pull him out and go, just like he said, man, we blew it all up. Showing that they don't listen to what the man's saying, they put their own feelings onto his words.
Yeah.
The film is amazing, in my opinion. I get why you might not like it. I think calling it a bad film or an insult is insane.
Yeah, I think to call it an insult is a bit strange.
I think like one thing I've seen and like is like it's very worth saying that these people are obviously on the different side of a lot of spectrums to me. Someone said this film is a humiliation ritual because the wrong kind of people liked the first one. Now, for those of you who aren't as chronically online as me, a humiliation ritual is I'm going to call it made up because there's no evidence it's actually a thing. It's a made up thing that apparently the Illuminati do to people who don't do what they're told. So basically, they're claiming because they're a free thinker who does whatever they want to do, and they identified with the first film, they had to make this horrible second film, which is a humiliation ritual for them people. I think this film makes complete sense in the context of the first film, where Arthur has a break because he's been bullied and abused his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
He starts to buy into his own hype despite not understanding that he's still being bullied, which is then when he snaps and kills Murray at the end of the first film.
Mm-hmm.
Then in prison, he just starts to fall back into who he is because he's taking his medication again.
Yep.
Then he stops taking his medication. He has Harley in his ear, building the Joker back up.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes to court where he sees all these people chanting for him. And he's in love with Harley, so he gets him more in his ear, and then it brings it all back to the surface. It's a story about mental health and how it's not taken seriously enough, and how when it comes to people as a society we project our feelings onto them as a person.
Yeah.
And then forget that there's a person there as well. Arthur Fleck is not a good person, but they're a victim of the system.
Yeah.
And the entire film is about how Arthur Fleck has been victimized by everything all the time, constantly. And because he's the victim of so many people, he then becomes the villain.
Yeah.
When actually, and like in the film and through the court case, you get little glimpses of it. But a lot of his lawyer before he fires her argument is the system had 1,000,001 chances to save Arthur Fleck and stop these 6 people from dying, and they failed time and time again.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend this film enough. But I think it also says a lot that the only person in the real world I've interacted with that didn't like the film.
Mm-hmm.
I got baited into the conversation at work by a good friend of mine. And they asked me if I'd seen it and what I thought. I said I thought it was really good. And someone spins around in their chair and goes, "That film was fucking shit."
They obviously knew how they felt.
And yeah, they did. And I said, "Why'd you say that?" And they're like, "Well, why were they singing so much?" I was like, "It's a musical." They've never hid the fact it's a musical.
Okay. I have a question, because obviously I knew you'd enjoyed it, and obviously hearing your opinion on it. The one thing that I've heard that some people have given more credit to as a criticism was the songs. And they felt there was a lot of songs, and often, considering this is meant to be a musical, so songs in a musical are meant to add to the plot or move the plot along. They felt that a lot of the songs didn't do either of those, so they were kind of not needed.
I disagree with that. Some of the songs might fall into that category, but I think most of the songs develop Arthur's psyche in the situation. I think each song shows how Arthur's thought process has changed and developed. So say in one scene he's really timid and tiny, you get like the first musical scene, and as part of that musical scene you see how he changes slightly, and then he gets a little bit more upbeat and starts cracking jokes again. Then he has the next one, and then that brings him up more towards like being the Joker. And then he finds out that Lee's lying to him, like, because his lawyer tells him. So he has a scene about how Lee's going to betray him, and that starts to shake the foundation of their relationship.
Right.
And then he has another one about how everyone hates him no matter what, and that starts the downfall of the Joker.
Okay. That was
I don't think it was perfect because it was highly stylized, which I think misses a lot of the points. But I think for the most part, the songs did their job.
Okay.
And I would say all of the musical choices were very much in line with the kind of music from the first film.
Right.
Keeping it very thematically similar.
Yeah. That was probably like the only reasonable complaint that I think I'd seen someone like not just being like, this film's bad, it doesn't make like someone that had like a thing that specific, and some people seem to agree.
I think it's completely fair to say the film could have been just as good with no music. I think you absolutely could have replaced the musical scenes with another scene that would have accomplished the same thing. I appreciate it because it was a stylistic choice that was consistent.
Well, yeah. It's that thing where we said, oh, they're going for a musical.
Yeah.
So
I absolutely understand that being a hit or miss for some people. For people who got and appreciated what the film was trying to do anyway. Yeah, so why were they singing so much? And they go, it was a musical. They were always going to sing a lot. Like, well, I thought it was going to be the first one. I was like, so you went to a film that said it was a musical, not knowing it was a musical, and then you were angry it wasn't the first one. She's like, yeah, I just wanted to watch the first one. I was like, if you wanted to watch the first one, you should have watched the first one. Why are we as a society accepting this idea of, I wanted you to do the same thing again, why didn't you? Does that not just sound like art is dead talk?
Yeah. But it's always in anything in life when someone's like, oh, I thought it was this, but they said it wasn't. Yeah, but I thought it was, so I'm angry that it wasn't. Okay, but you're angry at something that never was going to exist.
Exactly. I can't recommend the film highly enough. I won't say exactly how the film ends because I think you do need to experience that. I really enjoy the film. I think even if you don't like the film, as long as you have fair discussion around it, that's completely fine. My big issue with the internet over this film has been the people who like the film are tweeting out like 4 tweet threads about their thoughts, the good and the bad. The people who don't like the film are quote retweeting the domestic box office of it and going, dog shit film. And I feel like when that's the case, if you're only going to say that, you're not worth listening to.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I've seen Twitter, I only ever seem to see negative.
Yeah.
TikTok, I've had a few more so negative about the film of what I saw, or people not enjoying it, but not like aggressively not enjoying it. More just like, yeah, it wasn't a good film for me. It's weird. It's one of those films that going off the response and hearing your review of it, I think it's going to be one of them films that there are going to be people that just don't like it, and it is going to be a very Marmite sort of film. Either you like it or you don't, because you either like those sorts of films or you don't. And then it's also, I feel like it's going to be one of them films that 5 years down the line, people are like, no, that was a really good second film to that story. People just didn't really understand what it was when it first came out.
You know how the last 5-6 years we've seen a lot of people like reimagining the history of a film, like trying to claim Amazing Spider-Man 2 is actually a really good film when it's not, but it was better than it deserved to be tarnished as. I have got a very strong feeling in 5-ish years, people are going to look back at the Joker and go, what the fuck were you guys smoking? That film was so good. I think the problem we had was die-hard comic book movie fans
wanted a Joker film.
Were the first people to go see it. It's not the kind of film that's designed to appeal to them.
No.
And whether that's a good market decision or not is a completely different discussion. And their reviews flooded the market. So you had a lot of people who would be on the fence decide not to go, even if they might have ended up enjoying it. And then it took the second wave of people. Because like 3-4 days later, when more people like me had seen it, I started to see a lot more balance on the timeline.
Yeah, but a lot more mix.
Yeah,
it's...
I think the best thing I can say is it's not perfect, but in a world where no one seems to want to try anything anymore, I'm happy this film exists.
I get you.
So yeah, that was Joker of Folie. Deux. I really recommend giving it a go, even if you're on the fence about it. Actually, make up your own mind.
Yeah, It sounds like out of all films at the moment, that is one to definitely just
yes,
go see for yourself.
Absolutely.